CG Ruthless Sports. I will be brutally honest. Ain't nothing but being brutally honest. Coming at you with another video. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Squabosays, bro. What's up?
Hey, man, I'm pumped, man. We've been kicking y'all ass in the NFL. Us Seahawks have, and so I'm ready to kick your ass in this stream.
I love it, man. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media platform.
Thank you so much. At Squabosays on everything. CG and I, we've done this one time on his channel. I still need to get him on my channel. My bad. But we're gonna set something up, man. We've done the NFC West Roundtable together a couple of times. We talk a lot of trash together, and I'm hoping that continues today. It should be a lot of fun. That's Squabosays on everything.
Oh, Squabosays, bro, without a doubt, man. You know what, man? You're the GOAT when it comes to being funny. Hilarious, man. You could be dead serious, but you could be funny at the same time, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Like, talk about the other day, man. We were having a good little argument. But speaking of it, man, how'd you feel about Seattle's offseason overall, man?
We have to talk about the Russell Wilson trade because that was painful. My whole thing, the entire past couple of years, is that we need to move off Pete Carroll and move on with Russell Wilson. We need to build around him, give him everything that he wants. And so when I got the breaking news that Russell Wilson had been traded, initially I was shocked. I was terrified. Funny story, I saw Russell Wilson 2 days before he got traded at the women's basketball tournament down in Pac-12 basketball tournament down in Vegas, where his sister was playing for Stanford. And I was trying to interact with Russ a little bit. I didn't realize it at the time, but I said probably the worst thing I could have said. And I said, "Hey, Russ, go Hawks." He had already known that he was going to get traded at that point. So by me saying that, like, he just kind of gave me one, like he was on his phone, like he totally ignored me. And at the time, I was like, man, I mean, I guess he's here for his sister. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to, fans right now. Come to find out, I think it was a little bit more than that. I think part of it was the fact that he knew he was going to get traded. And so when he got traded, then Seattle, as a fan, what are we doing? We have a 70-year-old coach who's now in the process of rebuilding. We get Drew Lock back in the trade, and he had as many interceptions last year as Wilson had, or he had as many touchdowns in his career as Wilson had last year in his injured season. So a very low ceiling kind of guy that Seattle's trying to sell us on. And so as soon as we saw who was all in the trade, we're like, all right, what's the plan at quarterback? After the draft, now I feel a lot better about it because Seattle nailed this draft. We boosted up our tackles. We boosted up our running back room. And we're going back to our philosophy, which is the only way that you can justify ever making a move like this. So as long as Russell Wilson struggles in Denver, this deal looks good for Seattle.
Yeah, now you're speaking of it like the way it is, dude. Like, it's gonna be a tough process, man. You're gonna go without the Russell Wilson era. Oh, hello to Ms. Berghain, by the way. That is Berghain's wife, by the way. So yeah, definitely. My boy Squabo. I think he's very interested in this network because we definitely need a Seattle fan with that enthusiasm and that little entertainment, man. I just love watching Squabo, man. Squabo he cracks me up every now and then. Like, I could take a little joke here or there about my team, but hey, he's a good dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. It's kind of a change of the guard when you look at Seattle. Like, it's kind of been the same problem going from the era of the offensive line. It's been the problem with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's been asking for offensive line help for quite some time, and maybe it came to a point to where maybe he was fed up with the way this front office wasn't investing him. So what was your thoughts at this point once Seattle moved on from Russell and just went all in for offensive line?
What's the plan here? What are we doing? Well, and it's had to take me a bit because DK Metcalf went on Shannon Sharp's talk show and was interviewed by Shannon Sharp just a week or so ago. And I listened to the entire thing. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was that Shannon Sharp asked DK what he wants to do throughout his career. What are his career goals? He wants to get in the Hall of Fame. He wants to win a championship. Shannon Sharp looks at him and he's like, that ain't going to happen in Seattle. And I disagree. And I had to think back and go back to 2013 and 2014 when Seattle went to back-to-back Super Bowls. Russell Wilson wasn't an MVP candidate. Russell Wilson reached the prime of his career after those years. When Seattle was most successful was when we were a run-first offense with beast mode in our backfield and a legitimate offensive line that we had been building through the draft. We have restarted that process. We brought in 2 stalwart tackles, and Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, both of which I projected Seattle would go after in the 1st and 3rd round, respectively. Abraham Lucas goes to college or went to the college that I currently attend. Last year, I covered him and interacted with him on the sideline. He's a great guy. He's going to be a great fit. And I have a bet with a guy named Guru Films that he's going to have at least 7 starts this year. So we've gone out and we've fixed those biggest weaknesses because our biggest weaknesses are tackles and corner. We drafted 2 corners in the draft, one who has a very familiar name in Kobe Bryant, who played opposite Sauce Gardner, and he got a lot of balls thrown his way because of that. So he has what it takes to come into the NFL immediately and have somewhat of an impact. So I thought we nailed the draft. Going with this run-first mentality is what we have to do. It's something that you can relate to, and it's what we're going to have to do if we ever want to get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a building block, a foundation. Now you're talking about the other weakness, your secondary cornerback. Like, I was surprised you guys didn't even try to work out a deal with DJ Reed, man. I thought he was pretty much your best premium corner, but now you guys just move on from another position. Hopefully my boy Trey Brown from Oklahoma kind of steps his game up a little bit because I think that's pretty much the one guy you guys got out there that I would pretty much give his props on. I mean, this guy's a dog. When you look at the cornerbacks who you guys drafted, Kobe Bryant, man, that's intriguing. And then I just find out on one of those news is that I heard that he picked number 8, just where Kobe Bryant's rookie number. That's kind of interesting.
It's nice to have the Mamba mentality in Seattle, and that's what he brings to the table. Listening to him in press conference at the rookie minicamp has been inspiring. Like, he sits there and he talks. He just has the right mentality, man. He wants to learn. He wants to take every opportunity. Him and Tariq Woolen. Tariq Woolen is injured. He's 6'4", though. Out of the same place, you got Spencer Burford. How do you even say his name?
Oh, Burford.
Burford, right? So out of the same place as him, UTSA, this is a guy that he's facing an injury right now, but he's taking as many mental reps as he can. And so bringing in both of those 2 guys, I think that could potentially be the future of our secondary with a Trey Brown. Because Trey Brown, his biggest problem last year was that he got injured. He made a crucial 4th down stop against the Steelers where he came up and rallied and made a huge tackle against someone bigger than him, as a lot of his opponents are going to be. So it's exciting to see these new cornerbacks, especially with how they were talking about with Pete Carroll. They're excited to learn from the guy who helped to cultivate the Legion of Boom. So I'm excited. Not going to lie, though, cornerback is still our biggest weakness.
Yeah, it is one of your biggest weakness, but here's the interesting question, man. Like, I know I've asked you like maybe just the other day, but man, why did you not go at quarterback? At least it could have been the quick process, but I guess explain why, your reason.
I don't have a great answer to that. See, what I thought we were going to do, because we had the 9th overall pick and then we had the 40th and the 41st. When we had the 40th and the 41st, we took our left tackle at number 9. Right pick. That's exactly who I wanted us to go after. At 40 and 41, we take Boye Mafe, the pass rusher / linebacker out of Minnesota, who I think his technique is spectacular. I think he plays low to the ground. I think he's going to have a bigger impact than a Frank Clark, who ended up getting a $100 million deal and traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think Boye Mafe is going to be spectacular, especially playing opposite of a Darrell Taylor and a Shelby Harris. So I think that's really good for him. Additionally, we're switching to that 3-4 scheme defensively. So that creates some additional opportunities for him to play a little bit more of the style. We need more linebackers now because we've been consistently 4-3. Now we're going 3-4 with some hybrid action in there. So I'm excited to see what that does for him. With our next pick is when I thought we were going to either talk about like a Malik Willis, which in hindsight, I'm glad that we didn't force the draft of a quarterback, especially that early. But I also thought I wanted us to go after Andrew Booth, who was a cornerback out of Clemson, who had 3 interceptions last year and ended up going the very next pick to the Minnesota Vikings. I wanted us to go after corner because it's our biggest need. Instead, we go after running back, which we also needed one of those. But it's the fact that he fell. Kenneth Walker III had 1,600 yards on the ground last year and 18 touchdowns. Spectacular season. He is the guy that can electrify this locker room. We are so dedicated and committed to running the football, and yet we have 2 running backs and Chris Carson, who have wanted us to move out for years, and Rashad Penny, who we can't rely on them to stay healthy. Also, we've been consistently a team that goes with the hot hand in the backfield. So having Kenneth Walker to spice things up with Rashad Penny, I think is a great thing for Seattle.
Yeah, that pick kind of was a surprising pick because, like you said, Kenneth Walker to me was like there hasn't been like a top running back coming out of Michigan State since Le'Veon Bell, and usually those backs turn out pretty solid. But what stands out about him, he's physical too. He can run between the tackles. And the problem with Seattle from the last couple of years, like you've been saying, it's been the durability at the running back position. Same can be said about the 49ers. We've been going through running backs too, and it's the same issue we all got to deal with, like what really caught me by surprise on draft day was the 49ers going at running back in the 3rd. Like, you could have got any running back in the late rounds or go undrafted, but what is it about this kid? It took me at least a week to look at the film and see what he's all about. And what I really like about this kid is he's very physical through contact. He embraces pushing people over. He's a physical type back. There's been quite a few of his games where he set the record at LSU for most rushing yards in a game. So usually these running backs in the SEC are usually like very good and have the projection to be successful at the next level. Usually a lot of these LSU backs are pretty underrated. Like the more I watch this kid's film, I'm like, all right, I'm not upset about it no more. At first I was like, why did we even go at running back? And then I started watching more of his film and I said, okay, he's got a little bit of that physicality after contact and he can catch the ball at the backfield and run over people too.
See, I don't like the 49ers, obviously. And so I still have that mindset that you opened up with. And the reason is that, well, yes, we both had injury issues. Seattle, I don't know how many times we've gone into the year with a loaded backfield with 5 guys, and then by week 16, by week 17, we have nobody. And then we have to sign a Marshawn Lynch late in the season. The 49ers, well, yes, you've had some of those problems. You still have a guy we haven't seen yet in Trey Sermon, who I wanted Seattle to go after last year in the draft out of Ohio State. He is a legit guy. Combine him with Jermichael Hasty, combine him with Jeff Wilson Jr. and Elijah Mitchell and the other needs on your roster. You're trying to get Burford to come in and play some guard for you because you need guard help. You're trying to draft wide receivers a little bit later when you should have addressed it a little bit earlier, in my opinion. So I think there were other places where you could have allocated that draft pick. You got another running back. He's not even in your top 4 of your running back depth chart right now. And I feel like that was too high of a draft pick to use that.
I agree. I'm not going to disagree about it because, why did we even draft one in the 3rd? But then when I look at the film, I'm like, okay, I like a physical back. He's durable. He hasn't been injured in college. That's a huge plus. But like you said, we could have at least waited, but nah, what if somebody else would have got him? They really like this kid. When you like somebody so much, you want to make sure you get them before somebody else does. It may be a reach for some people. And then, we can go on with this. The 4th round pick, Spencer Buford. Okay, this kid, at first you were thinking he was a tackle, right? I did a lot of my research on this kid. So I got this kid on my show a month ago, and I was asking him some specific questions of what he was doing in training. Like, what was he doing, like during the training for the draft? And he told me that he was training at guard because a lot of teams were asking him if he can play that spot, which he's played it before. His first 2 years at UTSA, he played guard. And then the last 2 seasons, he was playing tackle. But like he said, he was very open to play any spots. He visit like he visited a lot of teams, including your team. So he visited the Niners and Seattle because of what they like about this player. He said what stood out about the 49ers was he wanted to play next to Trent Williams because he said he wanted to learn from the guy. And I think this is what makes me really look at it this way. Like, I think that people might think I'm a little crazy, but I think Spencer Buford could easily be the starter at that spot next to Trent Williams. I think.
Well, he's going to need to be because you ain't got no room at tackle. And you're talking about how he's been training to play guard. Seattle was looking at him for tackle. We don't need a guard. We needed 2 tackles. And I've looked at some of his YouTube highlights too. To be honest, he's a good player. Like, he's a really good player. He has a lot of pancakes on his film, which is really good. He was playing Conference USA. It's D1 still, so he is legit at the tackle position. The problem is when you bring him into guard, you realize his measurables, right? He's 6'5", 295, so he's tall and skinny. Both of those are the opposite of what you typically want in your guards. You want short, fat guys that are going to pull and just bulldoze people, not tall, skinny guys. So I think his body is not made for it. We'll see how it works out. He definitely has some good grit. He definitely loves to hit, and he has a lot of really good highlights, but they're all at left tackle. So I think this transition might be a little bit more difficult than it seems.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. It's probably because of his weight, but he told me that he was currently weighing at 304 pounds, so he's adding a little more weight to the regime. Oh, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Corey Davis for the super chat, $10 donation. Hello, CG Ruthless Sports. I hope you and the guests are having a wonderful day. And here's your favorite guy, Seahawks Eddie. What's up, man?
Yeah, Seahawks Eddie, man. Got to meet him in person at the Lions game. That's a real G, man. Thanks for popping up.
Real legit, man, like real G. But yeah, dude, like, I look at the Seattle's pick too, the Tariq Woolen to me was kind of like the most intriguing pick because this guy was moving up draft boards because of his tall length and because he ran a 4.2 speed. Like, what was that like when you found out that you guys drafted this kid?
My initial reaction was that's going to be our starting cornerback. Like, I thought that he fit the mold perfectly. And I thought, I'm going to reference Guru Films again because this was his idea. He talked about how, like, when you hang out with someone a lot, right? Like, when you are with your homeboys and you go to the mall, you see some chick and you already know your homeboy's going to holler at her because you know what your homeboy likes. Like, he's into whatever he's into, and you start to see different individuals fit into that mold as you get to know them more. And that's what this was with Pete Carroll. We know Pete Carroll recently has been drafting a lot of smaller cornerbacks and going after smaller cornerbacks and DJ Reed and a couple other guys. But historically, he loves those lengthy cornerbacks. That's how we built the Legion of Boom. And this is a guy that if he's able to live up to his potential, and that's a big if, he could be so dynamic at the cornerback position. He has great instincts. He is extremely lengthy. He needs to, he needs a couple more pounds in his back pocket, like a couple more bricks in the back pocket. He's a little bit light. But in terms of his measurables, he is exactly what Seattle has stereotypically gone after. Now, because of that, it's never that simple. So I'm now that I've gotten a little bit more information about the draft class and I've done some research, watched some YouTube highlights, I really think Kobe Bryant's going to be that guy. But this guy has more potential than any cornerback we've drafted, perhaps since the Legion of Boom.
Yeah, he comes from a small school. Usually, those small school corners or those players that come out, they have something more to prove. But then you look at Kobe Bryant, man. People were just looking at Sauce Gardner. They didn't really pay much attention to Kobe. But once Kobe had his opportunities, bro, you throw in his direction. He was a good shutdown corner himself. He had more opportunities. Sauce Gardner, no disrespect to him, he was definitely that one guy that everybody didn't want to throw the directions to. So he didn't get. So you can say what you want about the stats that Sauce Gardner was doing his job, but Kobe was at the highest level, in my opinion. I thought Kobe was a little bit better.
That is fascinating. Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't say Kobe Bryant was better than Sauce Gardner. But I think Kobe got a lot of really good repetition, and he has a very similar mentality to a Trey Brown where he got challenged a lot. And because of that, he had to scrap, he had to claw, he had to do whatever he had to break up the pass. And I think that's perfect coming into Seattle because when people look at our defense, the first thing they're attacking is our secondary.
Yeah, without a doubt. Here's a question. Question for Squabble. Can your team build through the draft?
100%. We just did. Our biggest needs were cornerback. We drafted 2 of them. And tackles. We needed both. We drafted both. And I think we got the perfect guys to play both tackle positions in terms of who was available. We drafted a running back, which we needed oh so dearly. We drafted a pass rusher, which we also needed extremely bad. So we brought in Uchenna and Nwosu in the offseason to play one of our linebacker positions. We have Cody Barton, who is extremely slept on and has made extremely good plays playing behind Bobby Wagner. But when you play behind Bobby Wagner, you're not going to get as many highlights because you're not going to be on the field. Now he has an opportunity to show people what he's really capable of when he's really just been sitting back, marinating behind one of the best linebackers in the NFL for the past decade. Right. So we also have Jordan Brooks, who came in. He was our first round pick. I thought we reached on the pick, but he's turned out really good. Our linebacking core is solid. Our defensive front is solid. Our safeties, I expect us to keep running some of that one high stuff because Jamal Adams sucks in coverage, and I want to see us using him on the blitz. But regardless, cornerback is without question our biggest weakness. We drafted 2 of them. Next year's draft, we have 2 firsts and 2 seconds. We have Denver's first and second round pick, and we're done paying for Jamal Adams in terms of draft capital. So that is what's so exciting for Seattle. Next year, I fully expect Seattle to trade up in the draft. I almost think that we built our roster so well we could win more games than expected this year. I really don't want us to because I want us to be in a position where, because honestly, I feel like Denver is going to have a pretty good season. And their draft pick is going to be a little bit closer to the second round than early in the first. So in order for us to trade up in that draft, we're going to have a pretty valuable pick from our own record. And that's what I'm banking on. We're going to trade up in next year's draft. We're going to draft a quarterback, and that is going to be how we rebuild through the draft.
Yeah, that's kind of like a smart strategy to look at it because you're going to go with Geno Smith and Drew Lock at quarterback. So that's the huge question mark. Can Seattle win those games with those guys? Because when Geno played, when Russell was injured, he did solid. But then you got this kid, Drew Lock. Was it just the poor situation in Denver, or maybe he's just not the guy? I mean, what is it with Drew Lock? I hear a lot of hype about this kid. Like he was supposed to be the guy for Denver, and he just wasn't quite the dude to begin with.
He had a good stretch in the beginning. He never had the supporting cast that he currently has in Seattle. Because right now we have 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. We have a run-first mentality, 2 brand new tackles, 2 relatively new guards, and a center that we just brought in free agency. Now, the center is the biggest gap on the offensive line right now, simply because Austin Blythe sat behind Creed Humphrey last year, who I wanted Seattle to draft so badly. If we would have just drafted Creed Humphrey, we would be so set amongst our offensive line. Drew Lock is going to be in a very unique situation. Very low expectation. The problem is he's coming in right after Russell Wilson, who Seattle loved and who it's going to be really hard to replace. I think that at this point, Seattle is convinced that we're going to have a really bad season. That should bode well for Drew Lock. It's about getting his confidence back, which this coaching staff has worked really hard at. And, if you have a quarterback that you supposedly believe in, Trey Lance, you're not supposed to draft a quarterback the very next year, which the 49ers did and Seattle did not. So I think by Seattle not drafting a quarterback, that bodes well for Drew Lock.
Well, like since you're going there, man, like doesn't the Mr. Irrelevant pick have to compete for a roster spot first? Because usually when you draft these guys in the last pick, man, he has to either try to make a push for the roster, and usually the 49ers just keep about two quarterbacks. And this is the most head-scratching offseason for the Niners. Like, we still have Jimmy Garoppolo. We just signed Nate Sudfeld to a $2 million guaranteed contract. I don't know what we're going to do with this guy. And then we just draft this kid in the 7th round as Mr. Irrelevant. This is kind of like a head scratching, like you're just saying. But are we definitely going to lean towards Trey, or this front office still stuck up on Jimmy? That's the one question mark I'm wondering. But I feel like we're going to be like the dark horse team because nobody doesn't know what to expect from Trey. Trey can be a mystery. We're going to run the ball. We're going to stick with the formula. We're going to run the ball, and Trey's going to be limited as a passer. They're going to probably make him throw the ball 20 times a game, or maybe depending on how he does. But I think we're going to slowly get this kid's confidence. That's what I like about it.
Well, I think a lot of teams are. You're talking about with Trey, right?
Yeah.
I think the problem that faces a lot of teams, and we saw it once again this year, is that not even necessarily with the quarterback position, but as you get closer to the draft, and Skip Bayless says it so well when he says the NFL is a flock GM kind of league, right? One guy likes a player, everyone else like, oh, who's this player? What did I not know about them? Now I like them. Now I really want them. That's what happened with Trey Lance. That's what happened with Travon Walker in this year's draft. I would have taken Aiden Hutchinson number 1 overall. Instead, Travon Walker on draft day, all the reports are that it's going to be him, and it came true. Trey Lance, he's another one of those guys. He barely has any film from college, so he needs time to develop. If you really trusted him, if you really liked what you saw, you're moving off Jimmy Garoppolo and showing him that you trust him if you're the 49ers organization with Trey Lance. But they have not moved off Garoppolo yet. And it sounded like he gave his last press conference ever for the 49ers at the end of last season. So why is he still here? He definitely has value because not every team has a quarterback. So if you're not going to move off of him, I honestly think that says more about your current quarterback situation. It's like re-signing Aaron Rodgers to a $50 million deal after taking a quarterback in the first round. You're not as sold on that backup quarterback. Jordan Love, Trey Lance, they're in pretty similar boats right now.
Yeah, you're kind of making a good argument about it. Like, it kind of seems questioned in some ways. Like, you would think that this would be moving on, but the surprising part about it is why is no other teams interested in him? Like, we're putting bidding offers, but nobody wants them. So maybe it's just Jimmy's just not the guy for whatever reason. But hey, speaking of your quarterback, man, who do you think will be your starting quarterback for Seattle?
I think it's going to be Drew Lock. We've spent too much time. First of all, we traded Russell Wilson for him, so we had some level of value in him as a trade asset, right? Additionally, Seattle all offseason has talked about how much we love seeing Drew Lock in the draft process, how he came to the NFL, and he was the same guy that we saw. And then he kind of had too many responsibilities to be the guy that we wanted him to be or we expected him to be in the NFL. So now he comes to Seattle. It's a second opportunity. All offseason, it's been about Drew Lock this, Drew Lock that. I saw a video, which actually kind of terrified me, of Drew Lock trying to recite as many Washington cities as he could. And as an individual who grew up in Washington my entire life, it was putrid. It was terrible. He named like 3, which was bad. You should know more than that, especially if you're trying to win over a fan base right now. So I was disappointed in that. He is the opposite of Russell Wilson in the sense that Russell Wilson gets everyone motivated and believing. Drew Lock sounds like he's speaking at a funeral every time he goes to the mic. Like, it's sad. It's scary. It's not motivating. And that's one of my biggest concerns with him. I think Seattle has been trying to hype him up, but even when Seattle hypes him up, they don't sound believable. Like, it's all about second chances and all that. Pete sounds believable when he's talking about second chances. He doesn't sound believable when he's saying Drew Lock could be our guy. Geno Smith, on the other hand, he knows, Pete does, that he can't sell Seattle on that because we saw him play terrible without Russell Wilson last year, and he's been in this system for years. So they're going to compete at quarterback. We got the guy Levi Lewis, I think, that we picked up as an undrafted free agent. I think Drew Lock gets the job, and I think Seattle intentionally loses some games this year so that next year we can go up and get a Bryce Young.
So you don't think it's no awful competition for the quarterback spot? You just think it's automatically Drew Lock's job to lose?
I think it's going to be Drew Lock based on how he's a better prospect than Geno Smith, first of all. The only thing that's really keeping Geno in the argument is that he's been here for so long and he knows the system. But with what we want to do, we want to hand the ball off one heck of a lot. We don't want the quarterback in our offense is not the quarterback. The running back is, and at least in terms of importance. So I think the fact that he's going to have very few responsibilities is going to help Drew Lock transition. And with just how I know it's dangerous to listen to press conferences, especially after how they were speaking about Russell Wilson before he got traded. But with how they've spoken all offseason, it sounds like it's going to be Drew Lock's job.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it because you made a move to go for a guy he's basically a bridge quarterback, and maybe there's going to be some possible good chemistry he might build around the receivers. Maybe this is where DK Metcalf breaks out again. Maybe Tyler Lockett gets something out of it. Maybe a better protection for Drew Lock can be something to watch out for. I mean, that's the crazy part about it. You guys invested offensive line despite having Drew Lock at quarterback. It's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of the supporting cast, it doesn't get better than this. Talk about DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, 2 brand new tackles, 2 good guards. We brought in the center. We also have Noah Fant. We have Will Dissly, 2 spectacular tight ends. And then in the running back room, Rashad Penny, Chris Carson, and Kenneth Walker. Those are 3 legitimate candidates to be stars. Kenneth Walker has already, or Ken Walker as he wants to be called now, he was blowing coaches away with his ability to catch the ball. His biggest concern right now is pass blocking, and that's something that he's going to have to continue to work at, especially if he wants to be a third down running back. But in terms of route running, he can be that guy, that check down option, and he is so elusive. You talked about his physicality. How about his elusiveness? That's what's the most exciting about him. He can turn a 5-yard gain into a 90-yard touchdown, bang his head on the goalpost, even though he's pretty short.
Yeah, it is. Definitely, man. Like I just think you guys are building through the running game too because of the injury issues at running back. But hey, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Corey Davis for a $5 super chat, man. Hey, I like to read this. This is definitely convincing and recruiting for everybody. I've been CG Ruthless Sports member for 8 months. Yeah, who wants to join CG, man? Y'all want to join the CG, bro? Hit the join button and join the fam, bro. We about this community, bro. We keep it 100 with everybody, man. You don't even have to be a Niners fan. You just have to keep it real.
Mm-hmm. I love that intro you got going too, man. That was pretty sick. You didn't have that last time, man. That
I had to change it. Had to change it because of the copyright stuff. So this one's like legit.
It's dope, man. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, here's somebody that's jumped in. I'd like to give a shout out to John Jay. You're pretty familiar with him, right?
Yeah. No,
I'm just playing around, John. I'm just playing around, John. I'm just messing with him, but yeah.
John Jay, he messaged me about doing a collab, and I remember looking at it, but I was like super busy at the time. John, I do want to do that collab. Let's talk about that.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, John Jay. Squabble will get back to you soon, man. But hey, I'm messing with you, bro. You're my boy, so I gotta play a little joke. But hey, Reed is a Jet. How many damn players did the Jets even get from the Niners, bro? Because they got Robert Saleh. They just took a Seattle. I mean,
I've been hyping the Jets' praises all offseason. I had them as a number 12 team before the draft. That might have been a stretch, but now it's not looking like it. They nailed the draft. They brought in 3 spectacular players at positions of huge need in Sauce Gardner, who you might not like, but I love, right? They got Jermaine Johnson, who a lot of people projected would go to Seattle at 9, and I never bought into that. That was one of those late in the draft. A lot of guys thought that he was going to go higher. He fell for a reason, and it's because not a lot of NFL GMs ended up thinking that he was as good as a lot of people doing mock drafts did. And so he fell, but they got a supreme talent that a lot of people thought would go top 10. And Garrett Wilson, who was arguably the best wide receiver in the draft, who fell because Drake London went earlier to the Falcons. So they nailed the draft. They bring in a Laken Tomlinson. They bring in a DJ Reed, a whole bunch of former 49ers buying into that Robert Saleh system. I think the biggest thing holding them back right now is their coach and potentially their quarterback. We'll figure out if those 2 are right, but they've built their roster the right way.
Yeah, like they're building a lot through the draft. They got a lot of cap space. I just had these Jets fans, dude. I was going through an exchange on Twitter with them. They were just like pumping their brakes, hoping for Debo to come into the Jets, and their hearts were broken at the draft day because they didn't get him. They're like, oh. And I guess I told one of the Jets fans, I say, hey, you might as well delete that picture of Debo with the Jets because that ain't gonna happen. That's all in smokes.
It could happen after this year, though, because y'all are yet to re-sign him, and it would be a dream come true for Seattle if Debo walks away from the 49ers, leaving you at the altar.
You might have a solid point, but you know what's been kind of like crazy about the last few seasons? We've actually worked contracts with our players before training camp. So maybe that's where Debo might get a contract. Maybe this is where we definitely ditch Jimmy at this point, or who knows? Maybe there's going to be plenty of cap space. Most Jets fans wanted Debo, but they got this kid because they had no other option. It's like, when the Jets wanted Debo Samuel, you had to settle for a dollar store version of something. So you got Garrett Wilson. That's a dollar store player, bro. You wanted a superstar like a Debo, right? But you got the guy who runs the routes. Ohio State, they always been known for speed and route running. That's what they've been known for.
Also, though, with Debo, I just pulled up his Instagram. You're still not in his bio, are the 49ers, and you're in very few pictures. He has a Pro Bowl picture. He doesn't have a picture in a 49ers uniform except for when he was AP All-Pro, which is just a picture of him playing ball. So, of course, it's going to be a picture in a Niners uniform. He is still disdained from the organization in a sense. I believe that. And so, kind of like with the Kyler Murray thing, I think there's cause for concern.
Oh, yeah. Oh, here's a good question. Has DK Metcalf resigned yet?
No. It's something that he said when he went on the Shannon Sharp thing. We're working on it. We're probably going to figure it out before the year. Man, I do not believe that after this year and next year, Tyler Lockett and DK will both be on this roster for the Seahawks. I have been on record saying I like Tyler Lockett better. I want sure hands over big physique. I want the guy who we can rely on third down in Tyler Lockett over DK Metcalf, as much as he is a freak of nature. It's more likely that Seattle's going to move off Tyler Lockett in the next couple of years, trade him somewhere, develop a Dwayne Eskridge, develop some of those young guys like a Bo Melton, and pay DK Metcalf the big bucks. I think he's going to get a contract pretty soon.
Yeah, because I guess Tyler's almost 30 years old, and usually when they get older, they're at the peak of their prime, and then you got guys like DK. But hey, here's an interesting thing that John T just mentioned. This one was the most shocking thing we got after the draft. Okay, so speaking after the draft, this kid, Donovan West from Arizona State, this kid had a 3rd or 4th round grade, I believe, at center. And unfortunately, he didn't even get drafted. So we got him undrafted for a $100,000 million guarantee contract he signed, which to me is a steal because this guy was like a solid tier starting center. Like he was solid at Arizona State. So he was pretty solid, but I was surprised he didn't even get drafted. He could have at least got drafted 7th or 6th round at least. But what I really like about this kid is he's still young. He just turned 21. This kid turned 21. We just signed him. This kid has a lot to improve. I mean, I like his tape a little bit from Arizona State because he can play the guard also. But he's a natural center. That's his natural position. What really stands out about him is he does fit the scheme well. He's a quick learner. What I really like about it. So as far as that question that John Jay would tell me, do I really like his versatility?
Yeah, I don't know anything about the guy. I know that you have Alex Mack at center, so I don't think he's going to replace Mack anytime soon. But I could see him coming in and filling in at guard if he's as versatile as you're talking about. So that could actually be a good pickup.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of versatility with the Niners, we've been drafting a lot of versatile guys. Like, okay, there's this guy we just drafted from Fordham, Nick Zaggio. You probably never heard of him, but this guy can play center, guard, and tackle. 6'6", 320-pound dude. This guy mauls people, even though it's the small competition. But the scouts been scouting for this guy for 4 years. Never thought that was true. Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Hey,
Too bad he likes the Lakers. Oh my god, I like Donovan West. Now that's my favorite guy.
hey, no, y'all needed some offensive line help, especially in this division, and it looks like to an extent you prioritized it. I don't know if Fordham even D1? I don't even know.
Smaller college. It's kind of like close to the Ivy League kind of version almost.
Okay. Well, that could be a concern, especially staying there for 4 years before coming to the draft. That shows you that he needed to stay in order to raise his draft stock. So maybe that could be something for y'all. Y'all definitely need some interior offensive line help. That's what you're going after. So it's in terms of need, it's a good move.
Yeah, based by depth pieces, but we're just looking to stack up the offensive line competition. And that's all the way we look at it. But yeah, as far as this Niners draft grade, like you said, you give us a B minus. I totally agree on what you were saying there, dude. Like, I don't think we hit off the ballpark with everything, but we did solid enough to get enough of the good players we can get out there. Like, you get a guy like Drake Jackson that had first round talent. You get him in the late second round. Despite the running back we drafted early, other than that, the rest of the picks were like really intriguing to me. Like, I think as soon as that kid starts to get better, if this running back turns out to be the best back, then I won't have no question about this pick going forward.
No question about it. You had a lot of needs heading into the draft, and you filled some of them. So we'll see how much they're able to execute. The 49ers are a good team. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they're not. They scare a lot of people. Seattle is not one of them. But either way, hey, you were in the NFC Championship game last year, and the NFC is very depleted this year. So a lot of these guys could have legit impact.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. This division is pretty interesting. But like you said, I may agree on what you said on the roundtable. You said that this NFC West might have got worse because of you guys.
Oh, yeah. No, clearly. We are in a rebuild. We won't admit it, but we are. And when we traded Russell Wilson, the rebuild begun. Now, we're going to have a pretty sucky year. I predict we're going to be fourth place in this division. But I do think after we get our rookie quarterback next year, we have especially if we nail next year's draft like we did this year, we could be in a 2-year turnaround like that.
Like Thanos. Okay, gotcha, man. Because you just need a quarterback. That's it.
And corners. Quarter
Oh,
and
yeah.
corner.
Man, something about Seattle, they just haven't been as the same since the Legion of Boom left. Like, you guys had the biggest weakness when it comes down to cornerbacks. Like, I don't know, what is it with the cornerbacks? Is it really the defensive coordinator that's not doing the job right, or is it the corners just out of place?
Well, we got pretty fortunate with the guys that we brought in. It wasn't Brandon Browner undrafted out of Oregon State. And that secondary, the Legion of Boom, they're in some pretty rough places right now. Brandon Browner is in jail since 2018 or 2017 for attempted murder. So he's in a bad place right now. We saw that famous video of Richard Sherman that went viral of him trying to break in a door. And Earl Thomas has had problems with his spouse and his family, and he's trying to make a return now. Richard Sherman was with Tampa last year, so he's doing better. Cam Chancellor with his career-ending injury. Cam Chancellor by far has had the fewest off-the-field issues out of those gentlemen. But not only has Seattle secondary not been the same, the stars of the Legion of Boom have not been the same.
Yeah, and it's going to take a while because you're not going to replace these guys overnight. You guys are trying to find these players that would fit the role, but I think when it comes down to it, like you said, it could be a 2-year quick build around. So you might just go through the losing season, but then you look forward to the following year because there's a better draft class. Because like you said through the roundtable, that this draft class this year wasn't as impressive as everybody thought it was. You know, all you had was Kenny Pickett. He was the only first round pick, and then you had Malik Willis, who had potential but upside. The rest of them were like you just couldn't tell which one to get.
I'm not sold on Kenny Pickett myself. I thought that was a solid pick for Pittsburgh. If they really believe in him, I just am not that guy. I don't even think he was the best quarterback in the draft. I did believe Malik Willis at least had the most upside. And he sells his organization on, how to be successful. Kenny Pickett's the hometown guy. Hopefully it works out. I hope that he can have a successful career in Pittsburgh. He's a small hand guy, which is the opposite of what they've had with Big Ben. I don't think he's going to be successful.
Ah, man, yeah. Like sometimes people question the hand size. Doesn't Derek Carr have a small hand too? If I'm mistaken.
He's not one of the premium NFL quarterbacks either. He's
But
not
he's
a
got a
guy.
small hand.
True.
I mean, there's like you said, there's very few that have been successful. But I think in Kenny Pickett's situation, I don't think he'll have to be rushed in to start because they just got Trubisky out there. So Trubisky's going to be the perfect bridge quarterback.
I don't know how much of a perfect bridge Trubisky can be. He's obviously competing for a starting position. I could see him having a little bit more of a Ryan Tannehill mentality where he just is trying to earn his way back into a starting spot, or like when Tannehill went to Tennessee from Miami. So I don't know if I'd want my young quarterback prospect learning from a guy who was drafted 3rd overall and failed immediately.
That could be interesting to go from there. Yeah. But man, hey, I definitely appreciate you on the show, bro. Man, we definitely need to catch up on your stream, man. But I'm going to give you the solo introduction and we're going to end it on the high note, man. Hopefully I see you on the roundtable unless Steezy fills in this time.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. All of y'all watching, please be sure to subscribe to CJ Ruthless Sports. He's been working so hard on his channel. He posts all the time, and his channel's been growing because of it. It's well deserved. I know that he works his tail off, and he's invited me on twice, and I've never even invited him onto my show yet. That's something that is going to change. You're going to see him on Squabosays content. So definitely be sure to follow him, support him. The NFC West Roundtable is where we've been able to interact lately, so go support that. We got a new channel for that, and that's been doing pretty well in terms of the last episode that we posted. It's going to start to be a live show. Last week it was not, but I think it's going to be live this week. I might not be on it. I'm a fill-in for Seattle when Mr. Steezy A. Smith is not there, but Steezy A. Smith is phenomenal himself. It's a great friend of mine, Seahawks fan. Has Steezy been on your channel, CG?
Yeah, he's been on my channel 2 different occasions.
Okay, good. Yeah. So definitely, if you've seen Steezy's work, you know he's legit. You know he brings it.
He's a good dude, well respected. He's been on my show from time to time, come on the comments every now and then. Like there's just the mutual respect I can give him. This guy he's a grinder too, so I'll give him that.
Good. Sweet. So if you want to find me anywhere, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, social media in general, at Squabosays. It's my handle. I'm trying to talk sports for a career. So it's free to subscribe, and it means the world to me.
All right, man. Appreciate it, man. Everybody else, go subscribe. My boy Squabosays. He's got a good content. If you like Lakers, man, you're on the right channel. But if it's just Seattle and you just love the team in general, or you're just a fan of football in general, go check out Squabo. He's got good takes, man. He's a good dude.
Thank you. And for the record, now, I am a Laker fan too, so you can catch a little bit of Laker love over here as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. But hey, man, as always, CG Ruthless Sports and Squabosays is out, and catch y'all later.